Hey everybody! Happy early Thanksgiving. You can see we've got everything decked out for the holidays already. We've got the beautiful Campus Martius with if I pulled our pictures away, there's nobody there because you should still be practicing social distancing, especially through the holiday season, ladies and gentlemen.
Eat alone.
Eat with your household. Keep your household
right.
intact because everybody in the house already has COVID. But you don't go visit those family members.
No.
Please don't. All right, everybody, welcome to Red Wings Rant. Let me pull up the old notes here. What are we at? Episode 84 of Red Wings Rant. Is that right? Are we on 84? This is what the notes said for the last. Oh shoot, maybe that needs to be updated. Maybe it's 85. Hosted by Brothers of Discussion and brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network, where tirades and impassioned pleas about your Detroit Red Wings now have a home. That's right, we are the most fun hockey podcast network. On the network, easily the most fun, but also most fun show that covers your Detroit Red Wings. It's been said once, if not twice. You know what? I'm going to say 3 times because I'm sure you and I have probably agreed on it at some point that it's a pretty fun podcast. So don't let the old, I got to make sure that I'm showing off everything. Like, there's still fun to be had. And part of that's going to go into what I hope, if anybody's watching live now, that you'll watch tomorrow, because unfortunately I could not upload our interview with the great analytic mind of Prashanth Iyer. So I got to throw that out there. I'm going to mention it at the end of the show again. But tomorrow's episode, once it goes live on the podcasting platforms and YouTube, Jesus. We went pretty in depth with Prashanth Iyer, just talking about timetable for the Detroit Red Wings and their ability to win. We play Be the GM with Prashanth, and when you have an analytic mind like Prashanth and you throw out that one of the options, Mike, on this week's Be the GM was call Ken Holland sobbing. Sometimes you want to hear a chuckle from whoever you're interviewing. Sometimes you want to hear a haha, maybe even a courtesy chuckle. Amazingly, when I presented that to Prashanth, he still, like, calm, cool, and collected, gave a really fantastic answer despite all of my efforts to make sure he didn't take it seriously. The man did. So you guys are gonna like the interview. I guarantee it. I'll do the old Men's Warehouse. You're gonna like what you're listening to. I guarantee it. All right, Mike. We've got more. You updated. You updated the beer for a Rochester Mills game, but you called it a Maple Stour. I'm going to change that to a Maple Stout.
Yeah.
Oh, man, now I screwed up the notes completely. Let me just keep going back. All right, that's just going to screw me up. I'd rather it was spelled wrong. There it is. We've got the Maple Stout that's going to be going down today. We are going to talk reverse retro and possible winner that I found, something that could be... Mike, when you put in an effort level of 0 and you basically are just deleting red from a Red Wings jersey, you get a pretty bad score on that. But I think I found one that's pretty cool. We've got our Red Wings prospect update because there's nothing else to talk about. We are going to highlight, Mike, I'm calling it Exhibit Double Z of the NHL versus the NBA. And I'm calling it Double Z because there's a lot of evidence as to how far behind the modern sports era the NHL is, and we just have another peek into that. We have this week's Be the GM, and Mike, again, you found me a Who's That Pokemon, despite there being no Red Wings news, so I'm very proud of you, and I'm excited
yes.
to play that game, and I'm glad, too. We still have all of our fun little videos and whatnot.
Yes.
Where is that little video? Actually, I think it's gone.
That's a good question. But yes, if one of our favorite games here is Who's That Pokemon? And, if you were ever a fan of the cartoons, sometimes what would happen is you'd get in a loop of reruns. You might miss episode 8 in the season, and then you tune in the next week and they've restarted. So you missed what happened. So Matt, much in the spirit of what would happen to me as a kid watching that cartoon, we're going to do a little bit of a rerun, and we're going to go back to 2019 for a Jeff Blashill Who's That Pokemon. And Matt,
I like it.
You're going to have a little fun guessing who this rascal is. I think it might be a little bit easy. It might be a little bit easy, even going back a year, but I think we might figure this one out. And it's still an excuse for me to pretend to have a Paul Woods impression.
Hey hockey fans, I'm Breezy.
And I'm Ray Ray. We host the House of Hockey podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network.
We're lifelong hockey fans who talk about the game and the lifestyle. Our guests include professional hockey players.
My rookie party had to wear Speedo, and then we had a checklist of stuff we had to do.
Here we go, Gaber. What do you got to say? And it's kind of like, you know better than that now, boys.
I got dressed for the Bruins. Get a phone call. He's like, dude, we need you over here by the elevator. You got to get downstairs. You got to get dressed right now.
Started playing the dun, 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 and I turned it around and it had the Olympic rings and said we did it.
NHL team hockey reporters.
I actually took the Stanley Cup to this ice bar where they've got now girls around them, and I've got a fur coat on.
I wonder who he shoot checked over here. And then I looked down at my feet.
Hockey fans.
The entire bar was lined with guys in Kings jerseys. We quickly realized, oh my gosh, this is the dad's trip.
And we bring unique hockey stories to light.
Coming back to England, 24 rings in the entire country. That's where the problem starts with the sport of ice hockey here.
Canadian Blind Hockey Association, those few kids we interviewed, their whole week is built around Sunday at the rink. They're just hockey players.
We don't agree on everything.
Pineapple goes on pizza.
No, it does not.
I think it does.
But we do agree that there are many people and places that build the House of Hockey.
New episodes every Tuesday. Come on in to the House of Hockey podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network.
But Matt, I did not make coffee this morning, but I did grab this week's entry into our Rochester Mills beer tasting extravaganza. I think we need to start the show because I'm ready to crack this one open and get a little wet in the old palate. How about that?
I could not be more tired this morning, so I'm excited to see how tired I can get. This
is an energy beer. All right. Well.
Oh yeah. Well yeah. Mike,
Michigan Maple.
We are excited and proud to present our beer tasting segment here on Red Wings Rant, where we're going to be tasting Rochester Mills 12 Days of Christmas beer package. We'll be tasting the beers for flavor match to the beer's name, drinkability, the packaging, and then we'll have an overall score based off all those. And we do confess we waited on drinkability, like how many of these do you think you could pound kind of thing? Rochester Mills is a Michigan brewery, famous in the state for its 12 Days of Christmas box set. I mean, Mike, if you search this on Google, like I was trying to find this picture that's up on the screen now, there's multiple articles from like the Detroit News.
The aficionados.
Right.
The bloggers.
And newspapers, major news publications, we'll say, just covering what are the 12 beers going to be this year. So, last week we did, Mike, the chocolate chip pancake stout, and this week we're going to be doing bright and early, like you said, the Michigan Maple. Let's just keep going with the breakfast theme until we can make it back to our nighttime recordings. All right, Mike, I think you're drinking out of the can again.
Yes. So I don't know if maybe this we don't have a control in the experiment. Matt has a glass. Is it a chilled glass or a room temp glass?
So it's a chilled glass that just sat next to my heat plate for a minute, so it's less chilled. It wasn't on the heat plate, it was just next to it, but it's pretty hot. I've burned my goddamn hand on that heat plate. So, and the fact that it's a Mickey Mouse themed heat plate.
Does it leave a little Mickey Mouse shaped branding on your hand?
It's like a Home Alone. What was the family in Home Alone? It had the M on board Joe Pesci's hand.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, is anybody who's listening right now?
Kevin Malone.
McAllister.
McAllister. Yeah, the McAllisters. Good call. Man.
Thank you. I mean, we've got the holiday theme going. It's time to start talking holiday movies. All right. First of all, folks, last week we did this. Look, now that's a natural head there. That didn't take too vigorous of a pour, and I do like the head on my stouts.
Well, I like to drink them. Let's see how this goes.
That is mapley, Mike. This smells like one of those maple candies. Obviously, you're gonna get chocolate from your stout. So I mean, like Russell Stover's or what's the other box of chocolates?
Godiva, Ghirardelli.
No.
Dove.
Nope.
I put those in a bowl. Put the little foil doves in a bowl.
It's the yellow box.
Whitman's.
Yes, thank you. See, the yellow box did it.
Yeah. Why did he start with yellow box chocolates?
Oh my God, that is exactly it. That is because it comes back around. It's the chocolatey goodness of every stout with this maple. This tastes exactly like one of those maple candies out of the Russell Stover's or Whitman's box. Holy crap. This thing, oh my God. Just like last week, we just tasted pure chocolate out of the chocolate chip pancake stout. This week, it is seriously just a chocolate-covered maple nougat candy. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, this is astounding.
I don't know if I have a drinking problem, but I could finish this beer. It's like 9:30 in the morning.
No, I think this is getting another high grade on the drinkability scale. We gotta pull up, right? We gotta pull up what we did last week just to kind of give us something to I guess measure it on. So last week with the chocolate chip pancake stout, the drinkability I gave an 8.5. Mike, you gave it a 10. Sounds like you've got another 10 up your sleeve. And I told you not to give last week a 10 because now you have nowhere to go and you're more excited about this one than you were about last week.
It's so smooth. You know, I had to double check the alcohol content on here because usually, you get a beer that, it's a little bit higher content percentage.
Oh no! Oh crap!
It'll knock you out.
Done.
What happened? Did you spill it?
Nope. I just mixed in my mead from when we recorded on Thursday because I don't clean up my office. God damn it! I can't believe I did that.
You mixed in your mead?
My can is right here, along with my mead can, and I just topped it off with my old mead. All right. Well, that sucks.
Well, at least you realized it, and then you didn't bomb your scores. Something about the aftertaste. Like the third sip.
You know what? When you let it sit out for about a minute,
it tastes like an old bag of Hornets. What the hell happened here? This is terrible. Let's try to remember those flavors from a second ago.
No, I've still got some left over. This is what I was going to top it off with.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, here's the problem. The drinkability, what comes into play here, is if I had to pick between chocolate chip pancakes and just straight up maple syrup, I'd go with chocolate chip pancakes. So I'm going to give this, this is going to get, it's very drinkable, but I don't think I could take this flavor for that long. So I'm going to give it a 7.9.
Yeah. I'm also, I'm going to do a free plug for Cinnamon in Flint. I'm going to be enjoying one of their delicious flavored cinnamon rolls here shortly. And I'm just trying to decide, I don't know if I would drink this with food. You know what I mean? Like the chalky chip pancakes one, I could see myself even having a burger and fries with that or breakfast. Yeah. But this one, it kind of feels like it should be on an island. It should just be on a mapley island. I don't know if I would have it with pancakes. It's just something that I would want by itself. So I think I'm not gonna score this high for drinkability. Give me an 8.1. How about that?
I like it. Yeah, it seems like you like it just a little bit more than I do. Yeah. Now, matching the flavor, I am just astounded that this tastes exactly like a maple chocolate candy out of a Whitman's box. So, I mean, last week it was, I gave gave the chocolate chip pancake stout a 5. It was very chocolatey, but not very pancakey. This definitely isn't a 10 because it's not just maple. It tastes like a maple chocolate candy. So I'm gonna go 7.5 on this.
Well, I think the smell is very seductive. Like you get a real whiff of those old maple trees leaking sap in a good way. You get the sugary sap, and then you get it all over your fingers, and then you try to drive home, and it's on the steering wheel, and you forgot. Does that ever happen to you? You get maple syrup on your steering wheel? Give me a bit of a day ruiner there, because you can't clean that up with paper towel, because then it just looks like you got tarred and feathered. Matching the flavor, you can tell it's mapley. Is it Michigan maple though?
Oh.
I feel like they're just playing with me. So I think that they're trying to patronize me and that I wouldn't have tried this flavor with just maple up top, I'm going to knock it down a peg. Give me 6.5.
All right. I like it. Now the can, Mike, last week we had a beautiful picture of chocolate chip pancakes. This week we've got a slab of maple wood with some
that's
syrup.
wood. I thought that was a cross section of a brownie.
That would have been better. Mike, last week, it had that beautiful picture, and I gave it a 10. You gave it a 10. Mike, this is a piece of wood trying to describe beer. Not good here, Rochester Mills. I wouldn't have selected a slab. If you guys could see that, like you could see the bottom. Why can't I do this? You could see the bottom of the cut of wood. It's just like a small cylinder there. This is Mike. This is getting a 3 from me. This is
I'm actually going in the other direction. See, I thought it was a slab of brownie. And then I'm reading the flavor ingredients, and it says cocoa nibs. So then I saw the brownie picture, and then I could kind of taste cocoa nibs just because of that cross section. I'm actually I'm going to give it a 9. It's an unintentional, one of those lucky mistakes,
Would you say 6.5 on the matching the flavor?
Yeah.
All right. So I think overall this is not meeting the mark on what we had last week with our pancake stout, but it's not terrible. I think if Rochester Mills is watching this, then they should be happy with the 7.9 and the 8.1. I am doing the calculation right now. It should be a lot easier. But the overall for me, Mike, is coming in at 6.84. Again, like we do rate the can and matching the flavor, but a lot of that I'm going to weight the drinkability. So yours is definitely going to come in a lot higher. 6.4 for me, and then Mike has a 7.96.
I have a 7.87.
Oh, really? Oh, I weighted it. I weighted the drinkability 3 times.
3 times?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Why?
It doesn't affect it that much. They're still pretty close. You said 7.8, and I had 7.9. So to keep it consistent though with last week's score, I'm gonna at least say so. 8.1 for me last week on the chocolate chip pancake stout. Mike, you had 8.8, and then this week for the maple stout, 6.84, and Mike, you had 7.96. I think that's pretty reasonable. I think Rochester Mills could be pretty happy with that. It's 2 weeks in a row. They're above average, kind of. No, wait, that would be failing. I don't know.
I'd say it's really good. Like if we were to throw like a Bud Light Lime in there, drinkability.
Yeah, just
it's a fluid, so I guess it gets at least a 1. Matching the flavor does taste like a Bud Light and a lime, probably a 10. If that's what they're going for. The can 0. So that's probably the score. That's right on pace, I think, right?
Absolutely. All right, Mike. Okay. Let's talk some hockey. I think everybody's waited long enough. They waited 20 minutes for us to get to hockey.
Oh wow! Really?
Yeah, that took
Jesus.
a long time. Yeah, last week we got that done a lot quicker. All right, Mike, let's go into the Red Wings prospect update. I stole this from the man that we'll have an interview with, Prashanth Iyer. This was on his Twitter account. If you guys can see this, I thought this was great because this was his response to how are you liking the prospect development for the Detroit Red Wings. And what you can see on here is the 5-on-5 Corsi against per 60. And you can measure this in a few different ways or to get these results. But this is what we're looking at here, and as simple as you can get it. On the top right box means you're playing good offense and good defense from a puck possession standpoint. We'll just say that. Now, Moritz Seider, I don't know if you've heard these discussions, Mike, but Moritz Seider is just like breaking new records in regards to Corsi while he's been playing in the SHL. So everybody's pretty much on board. Once he can play, once he's allowed to play with the Red Wings, he's going to be a full-time. I mean, he looks ready to go. This is something where he's even in playing in the SHL, where it is adults playing adults. He looks like a man amongst boys. I mean, he's really using the body. He's controlling the puck, as you can see, and it's resulting in good offense, good defense. He had that point streak going that we were talking about a week ago. So you can't, I mean, there's no point, there's no spot where there's a good argument because there is production. There's actual results that you can look at, as well as the advanced analytics that say there should be results. So it's just overall, Moritz Seider, it just, he's ready to go. I don't know how else to break it down, but we get to be happy and excited. Now you move down the list here. Lucas Raymond on there. And the one thing I'd want to talk about too, Mike, is did you get a chance to see Lucas Raymond lighten it up?
I have seen many of the highlights, but the newest one, was it the takeaway and the assist?
Yeah, let's see if I can pull this up. Yeah. What I don't want to have happen is me share this, and like when we share AEW stuff, they block us and send us cease and desist. So let's see what happens. This is from Here's Your Replay. We did not. No. Also, Here's Your Replay. Put this on Twitter. Let's remember, Here's Your Replay is also just screen grabbing. So I hope Here's Your Replay doesn't block us or something, because again, it's just a screen grab. This isn't his content. But here's Luke. I mean, this was so fantastic to watch, and I love this replay because there are so many different angles of this, and it was always hard to catch. Jan Mursak, who's also a Detroit Red Wing draft pick, who we talked about when we were doing our what did we do? Redrafts a few weeks back. But yeah, I mean, this is all about elusiveness. This is about him knowing his size. Like, think about hockey smarts from a perspective of, all right, can Lucas Raymond go where Jan Mursak is? No, he's a little guy. So he's using his skills to make this play work. And is it actually up? Okay, cool. It is.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, it's working.
So this is just something I'm going to stop sharing it just so we don't get in trouble from the SHL. But that right there shows you what, like, without him having the size of an adult that says he's ready for the NHL, and to see it play out successfully in the SHL. Yeah. I mean, we also are make this guy bigger, but he's already making it work with the size that he's at. But go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
No, absolutely. No, I was just gonna on the coattails of that one, because we talked about what this draft was. It was like, Stützle, Quentin Byfield, and Lafreniere. I shouldn't have opened up with Stützle. I should have made that number 3 to really add some pop to that pronunciation. But we talked about it was like 3 man-sized hockey players, and then everybody else, varying skills. And the reason they're not in the top 3 is because of their, shape. But yeah, exactly what you're saying. To see Lucas, embracing his not being Lafreniere sized and still being able to contribute. It's inspiring. It's nice to see highlights like that. It makes it feel like, we made the right choice. Even though it is such a small potato, and I think we're really reaching for our hockey highlights because, we still want to get this guy in the NHL, and hopefully get him in one of those sexy new white and gray Red Wing retro jerseys. But this is a fine little sampling, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's a good transition. But I mean, like you would want to throw out there, it's been a topic of conversation is how long do you wait for Lucas Raymond? Are you going to give him 2 years to build up that body, to do some strength training? Or, I think what this shows, I think the better conversation rather than us just gushing about what a great play it is that this is definitely something that pushes you in that, all right, this doesn't need to be something where we're giving him 2 years to develop. This could be the second he's ready, he can pop over. And even in Steve Yzerman's most recent interview on Sportsnet, I believe it was, it's either Sportsnet or TSN. It's one of those Canadian ones. Who cares? He mentioned like maybe this will be an end of the season experiment for Lucas Raymond, where he'll get an opportunity, but not really a full season thing. But you like to hear that from Steve, where he sees enough already, where the decision is he just going to be available so I can play him at the end of the season, rather than are we waiting 1 or 2 years before he gets full-time experience? So it's overall, this play is more or less progressing that story in that direction, rather than it just being like, oh my gosh, he's amazing. No, it just means that we have more evidence to say that he could be coming around sooner rather than later.
The other thing too is we've had some first round picks where it seems like we're still kind of, Stone Cold Steve Austin in the '98 Rumble, just kind of, checking your watch.
Okay, Stone Cold Steve
Austin. Are they anything going on with those guys? And you're like, well, they're, it's not about the goals and the assists. It's not about the plus minus. He really helped us ice a team out in, minor leagues. So it's just kind of nice that it feels like another of Steve's early draft picks is hitting. So it's just another piece of evidence that this guy knows what he's doing. So
right, and if we pulled this up again, you're starting. You need to start building a team, and you got to figure we have maybe 2 or 3 pieces already in the system, maybe 3 or 4 that can work with everything else. So Moritz Seider, you've got Lucas Raymond. You're just checking off a couple of boxes. You look at something like Don Leschyshyn is putting together these formulas for how to build a championship team. And you need elite talent on defense and in your top 6. So, or you need multiple elite talents apparently from Tom Leschyshyn, or at least you need the seasons to line up. So you kind of look at Mantha Larkin, Lucas Raymond. Those guys can play on different lines, and they have that potential to be the elite talent. And you don't need them to hit 100 points. What you need is something that is puck control, that is production, that with the minutes coming down, could they jump up to the first line and have those 100 points? But it's a pretty crazy formula that Dom Leschyshyn put together. But I highly recommend taking a look at it. But when you look at the Red Wings lineup right now, and you're trying to piece together a couple more drafts, some more free agent periods, Berggren coming through and leading, one of the top producers in the SHL and being one of those surprise draft picks, that's where you start to go, holy crap, there's something here that we can latch onto. Now, like something nobody latched onto this past week was the reverse retro. Of course, it came out on Monday after we released last week's episode. And this will be good for the podcast because I don't have a picture of it, but I do have a picture of something that I think I'd like to replace it with. And Mike, I mean, it's such a bummer because everybody was looking forward to this. We got some amazing jerseys. I got to say, anything with red, and what's funny is that there's so little red in the Red Wing jersey, but anything with red really played well in my book. You got Columbus Blue Jackets, the St. Louis Blues. A lot of people hate those. I love them. Maybe
I gotta say though, like anytime there's any minor tweak to the Red Wing jersey, people just lose their minds and, this is an original 6, so this is not how I remember it. So I don't think when they put out these retros, there was really a lot of room for a victory.
Right.
And with that said, the design they presented us is not something I would ever invest in. But if you're gonna go retro and barely make it a Red Wing jersey, I would almost just like Mighty Ducks it and just have like a big red chicken on the front. Just just some weird cartoonish, like Mr. Chicken's House of Hockey or something. Like a big red, rooster out there with a hockey stick, and he's not even wearing skates. He's just kind of flopping on his bird, claws. But I don't know. I would have went really over the top and just, like 70s cartoon it, something like that. I wouldn't have done this subtle gray that everyone hates and nobody's going to buy. I would have just done something insane, just a big red bird.
Well, here's what I saw, and this is what I liked. And this is somebody I've shared before on our podcast, but this is Lucas Dykman, I think. But yeah, you guys can see at LD Concepts. This is what I liked about it, because you and I didn't really get a chance to talk too much about what we wanted from the reverse retros, but I said, go to the Detroit Falcons. The only thing that could be interesting here is if they mixed in the Detroit Falcons yellow. This does that. So you can see the Detroit Falcons in the background there. I would have mixed in a little bit more yellow into the logo and probably matched the font, because this is kind of, and Lucas, I love your work. I want everybody to go check them out, but you got to be open to critiques here. This really is just that pull from when we played the Maple Leafs at the Big House. That's that same logo and font. I would move it into being the Detroit Falcons Detroit, and then maybe mixing some yellow into the logo. Like, that's taking a huge risk. That's taking the Mighty Ducks risk. And I think it's just for fun, right? Like, this is just something, like, why go maybe the lack of length to not have fun? And this would have been fun. This would have been something I would have been on board with, and I'd probably be pre-ordering because it's so crazy. I also like, Mike, you can go to town. If you take this to Little Caesars Arena, go to town on your hot dog, man. Ketchup mustard all over. And if you start to spill it, nobody's going to notice. It's an extra bonus that nobody's taking into consideration here. Something that I think more when T-shirts are made or anything, like, now we have our T-shirts that make sure it blocks the yellow stains that are going to come from our pits.
Oh, yeah.
Let's make sure we're blocking something that people wear to a hockey game and make sure it's okay with ketchup and mustard stains. That's all I ask.
That's, real quick side note. You know how they make like tweed jackets and then they'll put like the elbows?
Yeah.
I wish that we could start a trend where there's just like a yellow patch under your white T-shirts. So I could bring a lot of mine out of retirement. I haven't had the heart to throw them away, but they're yellow stains under there.
Maybe go with a white patch. I feel like the yellow patch is gonna. It's the same problem. You're still gonna.
No, yellow's in. Yellow's in now, so we're all gonna sweat out our shirts. By the way, there is a new deodorant that's supposed to help with that. I still have to buy a new white T-shirt and try it out formally, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think the moral of this story is with retro jerseys, the more risk, the merrier. I miss the Sharks with the big old shark taking a chunk out of the stick. We already mentioned the Mighty Ducks. I always like the Islanders one with the old guy who sold fish sticks, Captain Gordon, when he was on the front with his floppy hat, chasing away seabirds. Those were all my favorites. So I wish that the Red Wings could do something a little more risque.
New York Islanders fans are right there with you, because they're pretty bummed that the Islanders just turned in the same exact jersey and said, hey, it's a little bit darker blue. Have fun.
Yeah. Come on. You're not taking my money on this one. Sorry, retro program.
But who is getting our money, Mike?
Damn it. I fed you that one. There you go. Like a fish stick. The fresh fish stick out of the fryer. There you go.
No, I mean, we were talking about deodorant stains on our shirt, but Mike, if you want to stain your nuts and berries, or your twig and berries, your nuts and berries, that's just
stain them. Here we go.
Oh wait, deodorize them. That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the same.
You want to stain them? What are you
if you want to stain your nutsack, Mike.
Watch out for the bloody buzzsaw. That is.
Of course, we're bringing up all the wonderful products you can get from Manscaped, including the Lawnmower 3.0. Mike, we've been talking about it all summer. Now we've been talking about it all fall. And as I watch the snowfall, I know we're going to be talking about it in the winter. This is a third generation cutting edge technology from Manscaped. This thing gets so close to the skin. You can just twirl that thing around like a baton. You can go to town and not think twice about it. I'm telling you, no nicks or cuts, it's really doing the great job that Manscaped promises that Mike, you and I are now used to. It's that 7,000 RPM motor. You've got the battery that's going to last up to 90 minutes. You've got the LED light that's going to shine where the sun don't shine. You need to be able to see down there to make sure everything's going right. And you've got that beautiful charging stand. Nobody's coming over now, but you get to look at that charging stand every day. So with all that, you can have 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with promo code THPN. That is in reference to the Hockey Podcast Network. That's promo code THPN at manscaped.com so that you can deodorize your balls. You can cut those little hairs as close as possible. You keep them high and tight, Mike. It's manscaped.com, promo code THPN. Check it out. We love it. And we what is it? It's your balls will thank you. There it is. Sorry about that. That's all right, moving on. Mike, we have the NHL versus NBA exhibit, as I called it before, exhibit double Z, in reference to how many pieces of evidence there are that the NHL is far behind the NBA in regards to modernizing the sport. And this is the evidence we brought up, right? Here's Alexis Lafreniere, first overall. I mean, this guy has been touted for the last couple of years. He's getting his deal is he's a max entry level contract worth $11.3 million with bonuses. Only $517,500 is guaranteed. And then, Mike, compare that to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who selected Anthony Edwards first overall. He'll sign a max. Can you help me again, Mike? What's the RSC?
Rookie scale contract
worth $44.2 million, of which $20 million is guaranteed. Think about that. The guaranteed part, just take the guaranteed part. Let's just discuss that. That's 40 times. 40 times is what an NBA player. Now, sure, the NHL teams are bigger than an NBA team, but not that much bigger. Not enough to say one of the best, what's considered one of the best prospects to be drafted in the NHL, and Alexis Lafreniere in a while, arguably. All right, anybody who's getting their pants.
Yeah, he's a generational superstar. Yeah, generational. Right. I guess with this one, it's a perfect counter example, because Lafreniere is widely regarded, like you said, to be a generational top prospect. Where the Red Wings literally got they earned 7 points in the win standings last year to try and get this guy. And then to look at Anthony Edwards, Matt, who this is one of the lowest graded drafts for the NBA ever, where nobody knew the value of anybody. There wasn't any, Zion Williamson. There wasn't a LeBron in it. There was a bunch of guys that you're like, 1 through 9 are kind of the same guy. Hopefully one of them pans out. And to see, roughly 40 times more money you're going to make. I will say that it's tougher because, like you said, the hockey roster is much larger compared to an NBA roster, which is only, 12 guys. In hockey, you're getting 20-ish between, guys bouncing back and forth between the minors. But I'd say the other piece of this that kind of bums me out, we had so much time to kind of analyze and dissect before the drafts happened for the NHL and the NBA, and then they occurred. The NHL pretty evenly just kind of went how we predicted it would go, like who would draft which player at which slot. And it pretty, for the most part, kind of followed a cookie cutter approach, for how we had it predicted months ago. It's just, I wish the NHL kind of had that level of excitement that the NBA can, because just even if you just look at it from a Detroit perspective, and the Detroit's Pistons GM Troy Weaver went bananas this year. What I called a largely Yzerman draft, because he traded into the first round not once but twice. So the Pistons left with 3 first-round picks. I don't think you get that kind of movement, not on draft night from the NHL. And I kind of wish it was something that, depending on the contracts, it was something that was a little bit more feasible, that, immediate impact. We want to make this immediate change. We're going to, juggle X amount of dollars, and we're essentially going to buy draft picks. I think you'll see it a lot more at the trade deadline for hockey. But I do wish that there was a little bit more movement, a little more sizzle, just to kind of, for me as a fan, it just makes it feel like this is a more important night. Like there's more desperation, to see movement. And you just don't see as much of it, in hockey as you do the NBA, where it was just almost constant movement outside of like the first 2-3 picks.
I will say that there is some on draft day, and we've seen some pretty crazy stuff, and that's where the whole we have that impression that we've run through this very show of Gary Bettman saying we have another trade, which is me doing an impersonation of Greg Wyshynski doing an impersonation of Gary Bettman.
I can't wait to have him on. I can't wait to do WWE impressions with that guy.
So it does happen. I think to defend the NHL, I think it was COVID that got in the way. I think you saw every single one of these picks for 7 rounds go almost the entire allotment of time. And I think it's because we had so many guys that were running these drafts that weren't necessarily, you know what? No, it's just a brand new thing, and they didn't really know how to handle it. So I think the fact that all of those draft times, or the 5 minutes you get, or the 2 minutes you get for each draft, really ran the full 2 minutes, even going into the 7th round. Like you still saw that. I think that just goes to say that these guys were confused this year. I think there were less moves because of that. So I will defend them to that end, but I will not defend the NHL for having a revenue that's about half of what the NBA is bringing in. So the NBA is at 8.3, or at least the last season was at 8.3 billion. The NHL is at 3.8 billion. So you're just flipping those numbers there. So it's about half. But then for a player coming in, and so half, right? Half. You just multiply it by 2, and then they're at the same revenue. To take a rookie contract and say that the NBA has figured out a way to do a contract that's 40 times the size of an NHL rookie contract, that's what makes me mad. That's what turns this league and keeps it being the team first, which I think is propaganda. I know I sound like, is it Alex Jones, the conspiracy theorist?
Yeah.
It can't go into that realm, because we see the facts. Like, it's not something like, oh, I bet, behind closed doors, the NHL won't pay blah, blah. No, it's everything we see. We see the player salaries. We see where the money goes. We see the advertisements that say it's this team versus this team. It's never focusing on that superstar player. And man, how excited was I to watch the playoffs this summer, because I finally get to watch Connor McDavid, and that never happens. They don't focus on the best player in the NHL. I only get to watch the Chicago Blackhawks and the Pittsburgh Penguins, which, again, you get to see Sidney Crosby, but come on. I guess
another one, you get to see future Red Wing Patrick Kane. So,
oh my God, we got our first really mean comment on YouTube because of that, and it was just like, are you kidding me, Patrick Kane? Never listening again. Blocked. Like, it was.
Who doesn't want 100 points a year from an MVP candidate?
All right, we're not getting into this again, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. He said it. If you want, reach out to me at BOD Hockey. I will issue a formal apology for anybody hurt by Mike's comments about the Red Wings picking up Patrick Kane.
For anybody who wants a free Red Wings Rant or Brothers of Discussion COVID mask, hit me in those comments with those Patrick Kane pluses, huh? Yeah, who wants a free mask?
So you just have to agree with you, and they'll get a free mask.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right. I kind of that is kind of funny. That's going to be expensive.
Well, let's hear. I want to see the comments. I got to see some Patrick Kane's in there.
At Michael_Klink.
That's actually at Matthew_Matt Klink.
All right, cool. He got that wrong.
It's at Clinkman. Damn it! I forgot your stupid thing. Your handle. I'm sorry. It's not stupid. I'm panicking. All right, man. We got to move on. We don't want to talk about the NBA crushing the NHL
Long story
anymore.
short, there's so many steps the NHL needs to take. We need to wrap up these segments with conclusions at one point.
All right, let's get into the other fun part of being the GM outside of the draft. Matt, you had another be the GM.
All right.
That's enough of that. I love that song. Go ahead.
I do too. Yeah, if you guys listen to us on YouTube, we I play the whole song while we're talking, so it actually sounds a little bit better. StreamYard, get your shit together. All right, so let me find our results here, and then I'm going to share the screen so everybody can take a peek. Now, here was the situation this week, Mike. By Bobby Ryan's own account, Yzerman has promised to put him in a better situation should a trade arise. However, a bubble team with a very juicy offer needs help, but it's likely they don't have a deep playoff run. What do you do? So here's the 4 points here. Ask Ryan, basically get Ryan's opinion, but risk losing the offer. All right, so you take the time to reach out and say, hey, what do you think about this? Can we do it? But this is where you're in a trade deadline scenario. You need to get the ball rolling, and the second these conversations start happening, you could lose the trade. Send him packing. Mike, you get the good offer. Who cares about Bobby Ryan and his feelings? Inquire about an alternative. You have another right-handed stick that's aging on the team that you could offer and say, maybe I'll take a little bit less. Or, Mike, number 4, you call Ken Holland sobbing. For a while, that was leading the way, so I was pretty stoked about that when it was winning. But, Mike, 0% say that Yzerman should follow through with what he said and call Bobby Ryan and get his opinion because he promised, by Bobby Ryan's account, he promised to put him in a better situation. I don't know. I'm kind of disgusted at Red Wings fans right now. I honestly, like this.
I mean, by Yzerman's own accord, he just said a better situation. I mean, technically, if they're going from the 31st seed to the 30th seed, that is a better situation. So, I mean, if he gets traded to Ottawa for, a first-round pick, that is a better situation, I think we need to take this pretty literally. I think that's what Steve is doing. And when Bob calls Steve to be like, hey, why am I getting fitted for a Senators jersey? He said, hey, better situation.
Look, we've been talking for weeks. Is it possible that NHL franchises are going to be able to use this moving forward? Because you don't see it too often, but we've seen it with Ken Holland and the Red Wings and Vanek when he was coming in and out. This would be another chance to do that with Bobby Ryan, where you give him a Stanley Cup opportunity, and then if it doesn't work out, you come on back and we'll trade you next year. You just keep playing the same game over and over. How are you going to build?
That's a very nice sentiment, but it's not what Steve said.
I will say this. We had a my opinion, very similar to what we got from Prashanth. So I hope you guys do take a listen to that interview. We eventually get to talking about why I asked him to come on the show, where I said, just 15 minutes, we'll chat Bobby Ryan. Of course, we went a half hour and chatted Bobby Ryan for about 5 minutes. But I think for me, and I thought this was a fun game to play, and I can tell that I think what happens is folks don't want to play the real game and sit there and go, all right, well, if I'm gamifying this, what happens if I don't do Bobby Ryan a solid? What happens is you lose that trust that so many of these guys signed on with the team and said, I trust Steve Yzerman. I think the conversations that he had, I think he really needs to lean into that. And I know, Mike, you're not saying that he shouldn't. I think you're playing a bit.
I'm having a jest. A jest. Yeah.
But I don't see how we got 0% said, like, get Bobby Ryan involved in the conversation. I understand that this is the mentality of the NHL fan, and this is what scares me. Like, this is where we see the problems of our NHL players getting so underpaid compared to other leagues, where it's already like, oh no, I need my team to come out on top. These are not human beings to me. These are just playthings for me to watch on Fox Sports Net. I guess for the Red Wings fans, it's 82 times a year, and that's all you get. But I don't know. It kind of bothered me that we had nobody vote
Yeah, I thought maybe Iserman would sign in with his burner account, like Stevie Y #1 fan, and just put in one vote. Well, I'd probably talk to the player first and maintain good relationships with everybody in the NHL. Yeah.
Or Bobby Ryan gets involved and is like, Jesus, I hope he's going to ask me about this.
No, he just tweets it and then at Steve Yzerman.
Look, and if anybody thinks I'm insane for even bringing this up, how many times have we heard guys like signing into Twitter and going, "That's when I found out I got traded." Like, that does happen. And maybe a lot of you were just, sticking around, but you were on board with that. You're like, no.
Maybe they're playing NHL 21. Like, I rarely ask my players if they want to be moved.
That's true.
In a video game. So maybe that's what's going on. But when I voted, I confess that I said send him packing. I'm sorry.
Oh, you mother puss bucket. Now, I did vote for Call Ken Holland sobbing. So I didn't really help the situation, but honestly, everybody else could have, somebody could have chimed in and said, let's do Bobby a solid.
I think you had the most pragmatic, thought on here to actually come through on something because, it's not a one-off. Obviously, Bobby Ryan is going to be a veteran. People are going to want to talk to him. How did you find out about the news? And you don't want to set a precedent where you're just, willy-nilly getting rid of guys and, like you said, letting them discover the news via social media. The most pragmatic, the most diplomatic, the most professional way would be to let Ryan know, here's what we have on the table. We can get you, you'll be a top 9 forward on a 4 seed. How do you feel about that? That's probably the smartest way to go about it because, Yzerman's trying to do this job beyond this year. Ideally, he wants to be here for a while and have a reputation and make guys, feel like signing here is a good idea again. So, yeah.
All right, Mike, we've got moving on to the next one. I hope you all feel terrible right now. But moving on into our next segment, Mike, it's your favorite segment.
Shame on you. Shame on me. But, I'm going to redeem myself with another edition of Who's It Pokemon?
I love that picture. Oh, poor Jeff.
Wait, put it back up. That's beautiful. I love that. Where this segment, basically, I cherry pick a quote from Jeff Blashill, take it out of context usually, and Matt's got to tell us which player Blashill is talking about. Sometimes I'll kind of lead the witness if it's a little more of an oddball one, but in this case, he is talking about one specific player. Matt, we went back into the annals of Red Wing history, and it was an extra N, so a hard N on the annals. But Matt, it was from 2019, roughly November. Red Wings mired in a losing streak, which doesn't narrow it down. There was quite a few losing streaks last season. But Matt, dealer's choice. Would you like me to read it, or would you like to hear our guest Paul Woods? We have him on the line.
As always, Paul Woods.
Matt once again has chosen Paul Woods. He still does not want to hear more of my voice. I'm not insulted, just a little bit. Okay, here we go. Matt, this is Who's That Pokemon, as presented by color commentator, Hall of Famer of something, Paul Woods. Man, here we go. Blashill, he told fill in the blank. I appreciate the competitiveness. It's a hard word to say. There's a lot of syllables in that one, but I appreciate the competitiveness, but we don't want you fighting.
As Anthony Mantha.
Matt, I like your mentality. All right.
Was I supposed to?
But it was already November. Mantha would have been hurt. So there's no way it could have been Mantha. I'm going to give you one more guess on this one. Yeah.
Oh, God. I just thought because he was fighting and shouldn't have been fighting. Okay. Then let's try. Maybe Larkin was fighting. Maybe he was.
There you go. Guess number 2 is Dylan Larkin. Red Wings were in the middle of another 6-1 defeat after recently losing 7-3 and 4-0. Larkin, in a moment of frustration, threw down the gloves and got into a scuffle. And head coach Jeff Blashill said, "Please stop doing that. We can't afford you to get injured in a fight." And that's the story on that one. So that was Who's That Pokemon? Starring head coach Jeff Gladwell. Yeah.
Wrap up of season 1, because we're gonna start season 2 next week. No, 2
weeks.
Yeah. So our next not the next recording, but the recording after that will be the start of season 2. So I've got, I guess if you give me that, where you're like, you give me the second chance, I'm technically wrapping this up positively.
You won the season finale. There you go.
Woo! All right. So everyone, as we wrap up, I do apologize that I couldn't get this interview to load up, but tomorrow morning, go to wherever you get your podcasts, find Red Wings Rant, go to our YouTube page, and find the conversation between myself and Prashanth Iyer. If you are a hardcore Red Wings fan, chances are you already follow him. So we tried to go a little bit more in depth on some of the conversations he's had on his own podcast. But let me, I give him, I'll just take a listen tomorrow. I guess this is going to get really confusing now, because if I'm editing this and then putting it, all right. So now I'm breaking the fourth wall. It's okay. If you're listening to this on Monday, we're going to roll right into that intro that I give Prashanth, and then we roll into the conversation. Hey everybody. Today my guest is the man who keeps Max Boltman in check on Wings for Breakfast. He keeps y'all Wings fans in check on Twitter, The Athletic, and Winging It in Motown. He is a member of Hockey Graphs, a co-creator of Meta Hockey. He's one of the few, if not only, hockey minds that if he spoke about COVID-19, you couldn't tell him to stick to what he knows, because he's going to be spitting truths. He is Prashanth Iyer. Prashanth, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we got to jump in. How often am I going to have Prashanth on my show? I am a Woodford Double Oaked man. I'm a Maker's Mark fan. Am I limiting my palate on the bourbon side of things?
No, I mean, yeah, everyone drinks what they like, and those are two pretty solid bottles. Sounds like you're a good weeded bourbon fan, as am I. So not a bad way to be.
Anything you've got on tabs right now? Something I should be buying for friends and family for Christmas?
The one I always suggest to everyone that's pretty easy to find, but it's really tasty, is the Russell's Reserve single barrel. It's a pretty solid bottle. It's usually about $55-$60, and it's almost always on the shelf, and you can't go wrong with that. So it's a great holiday present there.
All right, that's the first time I'm going to be highlighting my show notes just to make sure I don't miss it. So I gotta go. This is kind of outside of what I was asking you to come on the show for, but you see that nasty toe drag by Lucas Raymond this morning?
Yeah, I mean, it's he's a heck of a playmaker and got a nice assist there to boot. So he's looking really, really nice.
Yeah, I like one of the things that I remember since November, we've been chatting with all the different shows on the Hockey Podcast Network, and we've been saying Lucas Raymond, if not Alexis Lafreniere. But we wanted to solidify that a right-handed shot with the power play. And I mean, Lucas Raymond on this play is making it look like a power play, right? I mean, he's dancing around defenders. And it reminded me of that. I don't know if you remember that Gustav Nyquist play. It was an overtime game, and he's just ragging the puck. But Lucas is just making all this great space, and of course it was Jan Mersak who finishes off the play. But I just you gotta have, in my opinion, it's got to be something where you can at least put some fear in your opponent's penalty kill. And this is something I just God, I can't wait to see. And I know you were saying on Wings for Breakfast probably a couple years out, but man, if it as soon as it could happen, please, God, let it happen.
Yeah, he's an unreal power play player. So, he's a guy that'll definitely add a lot for the Wings in the near future. It may not be 2 years, maybe just 1 year, but we'll see.
How about, where do you see that elusiveness on a power play? Because I know a lot of it just turns into, you've got your setup plays, and you don't really see too much of that. Like you want to see the puck bouncing around. You are going to get forced into improv spaces where you have to be elusive to make sure you're not just turning the puck over. But where do you rank that in regards to a successful power play? Just top, off the top of your head.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly need that elusiveness. I think something I've talked about a lot is you need handedness. So you actually need a solid balance of right and left shots in order to successfully run your power play. And I think that's been a big limiting factor for the Wings is, they want to run their power play from the right half wall with their left-handed shots. But, you really only had Mike Green as a right-handed shot, and therefore you had really no passing options into the slot or to the far side. And so, give Lucas Raymond the ability to run the power play from the left half boards. And now with that right-handed shot, you can set up a lot of left-handed shots. And so, potentially you're looking at being able to set up Philip Zadina in the slot, or looking at, setting up some of these other guys that are going to come along. And so I think that's going to be a huge addition for the Wings, and just in terms of opening up passing lanes. So, and then obviously you put his vision in there, and same with Jonathan Berggren, and those two guys are going to be setting up power plays for years to come for Detroit.
Yeah, that's another name that I don't know if you want to call it a surprise, but it definitely wasn't something I was prepared to be taking notes on and covering this fall. I guess probably because we were expecting to get some hockey at some point in the NHL, but maybe January, right? Fingers crossed. But I mean, I think top to bottom, we're just seeing. I'm going to skip ahead here, and we'll put. I have you on here because I want to talk Bobby Ryan and him moving. But I did want to ask you. We're seeing. All right, we get Lucas Raymond. Jonathan's looking great. In both of our shows, we actually did talk about a 4 to 5 year. What do we want to call it? A timetable going from, bottom of the barrel to, and I put it as, I'm always very careful about saying a Stanley Cup contender, because I think almost every team in the NHL is probably considered a playoff contender. I think there's that potential. But are we seeing that advancement? Are we going to see that upgrade from 4 to 5 years? That's where we're pretty staunch on that. Are we getting that upgrade to 3 to 4 years? With at least what we've seen with the prospect side of things?
Yeah, I think it depends. One of the things I've always talked about is the way a team kind of advances or accelerates their rebuild is you have the guys not drafted in the first round outperform their draft selection, so even once you hit outside of pick 20, the chances of those guys being substantial impact players is quite low. And then you look at the teams that have been successful and been able to be sustainably successful, and it's the teams that hit on those second, third round picks with those guys becoming the lead. I mean, Tampa's the team, I reference a lot just given the Yzerman connection, but the ability to hit on Brayden Point, the ability to hit on Nikita Kucherov, Andre Palat, Tyler Johnson, all these guys outside the first round that allow them to build this sustainable contender. Yanni Gourde's another one to throw in there. For Detroit, if you want to move forward, you need Theodor Niederbach to outperform his draft slot. You need Jonathan Berggren to outperform his draft slot. You need Albert Johansson to outperform his draft slot. You're starting to see signs of that, which is really encouraging, because if you look back at the last 5 years, the Wings really haven't had any of their second, third, fourth round picks really substantially outperform, where they're selected. I mean, maybe you make an argument, for Filip Hronek kind of being the most significant of those, being a second round pick and outperforming his selection to make the team now. But really outside of that, you've had a lot of underperforming first round picks coupled with second, third, fourth round picks that didn't really wow. And so I think the last two drafts have really given you a handful of guys that, give you the opportunity to accelerate the timeline on the rebuild. So I'm not ready to slam dunk anything yet in terms of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I still think you're missing the biggest component, which is elite talent. That's going to drive you forward. And maybe it's Lucas Raymond, but I still think you're at least one more top tier draft pick away, whether that's the 2021 draft, the 2022 draft, which is absolutely loaded. So we'll kind of see where they go from there, but you have the right signs moving forward.
All right. And I'm really going to take this off what I told you I wanted to have you on, because I'm a huge, I'll just confess, I'm a huge believer. Once we get going, I think the problem with too many podcasts is that you want to continue the conversation and not just focus on the questions I had written down. But you make a point that pops in my head, and I'm wondering too, like I see, like you mentioned, the 2021 draft. Is this going to be something where you think the Red Wings might want to think about maybe gosh, if we're missing out on a real full season of some of these players in the 2021 draft, maybe not getting a chance to fully develop. I mean, are we just going to play the game that, well, we need to pull in some more 17, 18-year-old kids, or do we push out and go to 2022? And maybe we do have these extra draft picks right now. Is there maybe a possibility that it would make sense to go to 2022 and move some of those extra picks, or just make sure we're focusing on anything we're bringing in would be 2022 focused?
Yeah, I think that's one way of approaching it is, and I think, ultimately when you look at 2022, being able to pick at the top of that draft, there's more elite talent
right
at the top of that draft. Shane Wright, I mean, is kind of the big prize there, but there's still a handful of other guys that are outstanding that are going to be in that draft. And so, yeah, I mean, you definitely want to have multiple picks in the first round if you can. I kind of actually think the opposite about 2021. If you have less people being able to scout these players, there's a better chance that people make bad decisions early on. And actually having a handful of picks in this draft is going to give you the opportunity, especially, with the Wings having 3 second-round picks. You may have guys that are first-round talents that people just didn't get to scout a lot. And that's a big reason why they slide. And so then they slide into that second round, and you've got 3 picks, and you can kind of scoop them up there if you're a little bit more confident in your scouting group. Or, even if you just take the random dart approach and you're saying, I'm blind with darts, I have more darts than anybody else.
Right.
So I actually think it's fine to hang on to the picks, because there's a chance that these guys just get under scouted. And as a result, it's going to kind of fall on teams that have a better grasp of, their scouting, the analytics, the, whatever they're using to make their decisions. And so Detroit could be in an advantageous situation where you see some of these guys slip because people just weren't as familiar with your game.
Yeah, and essentially, I think what a lot of the Wings pundits have seen, including yourself, is something like a Niederbach falling in, and the way he's performing now, we get to at least say, hey, that draft pick, that felt pretty good when it happened, and now we get to see him actually play, and it looks pretty good. Let's jump back into the Bobby Ryan conversation. Like I said, I wanted you here. We play the game on a weekly basis called Be the GM, and maybe you want to jump on what we did last week too, but we focused on what could you get back for Tyler Bertuzzi. A lot of folks held up right away and said, I don't want to trade Tyler Bertuzzi, but we were playing the game of what would be the least you would want to get back? What would you say yes to kind of idea? And on that list, we had the first round pick for 2021, first round for 2022. We had multiple picks, veteran coming in, multiple picks, a prospect coming in, but overwhelmingly everybody either commented and said, you don't want to trade Tyler Bertuzzi, which again, I say is not playing the game. But then overwhelming winner on the poll was that first round 2021. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bertuzzi, the decision to trade him is going to be based on, how quickly you think your prospects are, moving along and what you think your timeline for contention is. And if you're going to be able to take advantage of his prime years while you're paying him prime money. And if you're not, then in that situation, you may want to consider dealing him so you don't end up paying kind of for out of prime years. And so, I think right now Bertuzzi's kind of pedigree, if you will, or kind of what he's got going for him. I mean, I think a first round pick would probably be something that you want to try and obtain. If not, if you get multiple seconds and potentially a prospect in there, I think that's reasonable. I think you're looking probably for at least one of those two offers, particularly if you're going to go after a first round pick. I think you'd want to target a team that maybe thinks more of themselves than what they actually are. And, pull off a scenario like Ottawa was able to do with San Jose, where, San Jose thought they were going to be a playoff team and they ended up, in the bottom of the league, and Ottawa ends up with 2 top 5 picks. And so that's kind of, if you're Detroit, you want to target teams like that you think you could take advantage of. I mean, I think one team that I've pointed out a lot is the New York Islanders. I think they're a team ripe to fall apart at some point from their age. They've been held up by goaltending. Right now they're in an absolute mess with their salary cap. I think they're a team you could certainly take advantage of. Vancouver's another team I think you could take advantage of. So there's a handful of teams out there that, if they're willing to part with their first rounder for Tyler Bertuzzi, then potentially that's the move you want to make.
And I know yourself and Max actually got into this conversation on the Wings for Breakfast podcast. Do you think there's something, I guess, in the world of like social media and with all this information being out there, you made a great case when you were talking about this subject matter on your show, to just sort of like play the game, right? Let's just explore like what would happen if it were the case, if Tyler Bertuzzi was on everybody's lips come trade deadline time. Like, what do you want to do? I think ultimately, when you look at Tyler right now, we didn't just sign him because we want to get rid of him. We signed him because we want to make sure that we get to make the decision, or I should say the Red Wings get to make the decision. But long story short here, let me jump into the question. Do you think that social media has turned into this, or it's just the games to be played when it comes to just sort of like mapping out what's potential or what's possible for an NHL franchise, sort of gets muddied because there's too much information and people are always trying to play that one-upsmanship and trying to prove themselves. So we lose some of the fun, I think. Like I mentioned, a lot of the comments we got, even though we painted a situation of, this is it. This is Tyler's being traded. What can you take, or what would you be willing to accept? That wasn't on anybody's mind. You had to cut that off. So I guess some of it might be some sour grapes on my part, where I just want to have fun and play a game. But do you think there's that element, like we just want to have fun, and maybe it's getting to that point where it's harder and harder to have fun on social media when it comes to like sports and maybe just I don't know, we could just say it's social media in general, things are less fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is, in the era of social media, there's you're not given a lot of characters, right? I mean, Twitter, you're limited to 280 words, whatever it is. So, to lay out a case as to why someone should do something or why this situation should be considered is a little bit tougher to do. I mean, if I tweeted out, okay, the Red Wings are going to trade Tyler Bertuzzi, I'd get a similar backlash to probably what you received. And so that's why, I use my avenue of the podcast where I can lay out, as a general manager, you have to be thinking about all of these specifics, right? You have to give, you have to give thought to is there a time that I trade Dylan Larkin? Is there a time that I trade Anthony Mantha? Is there a time I trade Tyler Bertuzzi? Because the reality is, those are not implausible scenarios to consider when you look at them being, 24, 25, 26. And we think that a player's, mostly going to be in their prime up until the age of 30. Do you think Detroit competes for a Stanley Cup before they are 30? And that's a question you have to answer. And you have a lot less information to be able to answer that. So you're kind of hypothetically projecting. And again, a lot of it's dependent on the performance of those prospects. But if your answer to that is no, Detroit is not consistently contending before 30, then you're better off dealing those guys and getting picks and such to bring in a younger core. And kind of now you're shifting the core to your, Philip Zadina, Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider core. And you're moving away from the Larkin, Mantha, and Bertuzzi core. And that's not to say that, one core should drive all of that. You look at the Dallas Stars, they were able to, shift the primary responsibility down to their younger core while still having guys like Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, play a huge part in their success. But, they had a lot of other, talent with Miro Heiskanen, with your John Klingbergs and those guys being able to drive a lot of production. Rupe Hintz, they had a lot of pieces there that are on the younger side that were able to really carry the Stars. So you can certainly straddle the two cores, but it's just kind of balancing what's the right time and, when to make those moves. And it's absolutely stuff you have to consider. It's just hard to lay out on social media when you're limited to characters. You don't get to the tone of the argument. And so, that's definitely something that I've experienced. And I just have kind of stopped trying to make those arguments on Twitter in order to use the podcast as a opportunity to explain.
Right. I mean, that's where the Woodford Double O comes in for me. If I'm going to go out there and make a claim like that, I'm taking 2 fingers and going neat. So I'm brave enough to hit send. All right. We'll jump in here with Bobby Ryan because I know I asked for 15 minutes and we're on 20 now. So by Bobby Ryan's own, and this is our Be the GM for this week. By Bobby Ryan's own account, Yzerman has promised to put him in a better situation should a trade arise. So now this isn't just, what can we get back for Bobby Ryan? This is sort of, again, we're gamifying this whole situation. So a bubble team with a very juicy offer needs help, but it's likely they don't have a deep playoff run. So this is more or less like from the human side. What are we doing? Are we going to ask Bobby Ryan, is this the right situation for you and potentially lose the trade? Are we going to just send him packing? Should we inquire about an alternative? We have another old right-handed forward, or aging, I should say, not old. Or number 4, which was leading the way in votes. So I'm pretty sad it's not anymore. Number 4 was call Ken Holland sobbing. So if you want to grab on that one, feel free. But obviously, yeah, those first 3 options are probably where you want to dip your toe.
Yeah, I think Bobby Ryan's going to be a really interesting case. I think he is certainly looking for an opportunity where he can play a big part on a team. He knows coming to Detroit that he's going to get a top 6 role. He's going to get a lot of power play minutes. It was probably a situation unlike a lot of other teams. I think he wanted to be sure that this was a team that hadn't really lost the desire to compete, hence him calling Dylan Larkin and kind of asking, what was the mood like in the locker room. So I really think, he is out to prove himself that he can still play. He's 33. He's a guy who was immensely talented. I mean, still is immensely talented, still a productive player. And so if he's able to regain some of the heights, even from 3 or 4 years ago, and, hey, he hits the trade deadline at 22 goals and 40 points on this Wings team, he's going to field a lot of offers. And I think, from a Red Wings standpoint, obviously you want to take the best offer possible. From an analytics standpoint, you're going to shop for the best offer. But, I do think from a human side that Bobby Ryan should play a significant part in this. This is a guy who's done a tremendous job to turn his life around, get back on track. And he came to Detroit on a discount deal. He's going to impart a lot of valuable leadership and qualities on some of these younger players that are going to get to play with them. And, so I think if you're Detroit, you take the best offer that works for Bobby, and you may not get the absolute perfect deal, but, hindsight's kind of 2020. All of us looked at the Andreas Athanasiou deal and thought you didn't get enough for Athanasiou. Well, turns out Edmonton got 10 games for 2 second-round picks, and you're like, okay, that worked out great, and you ended up drafting Theodore Niederbach. And so, you look at that and you go, that worked out a lot better than I thought it was going to. And so I'm not saying that the exact same situation is going to happen here, but I think, you target the team that kind of works in both situations. And I think both sides will be very understanding of that. And you let Bobby kind of get his career back on track and finish it the way he wants to. I think him using Detroit as a stepping stone is great. And if Detroit can get something extra out of it, even better.
Yeah, ultimately, this is going to go with our live feed tomorrow, so that's when the poll ends. But Wings fans, you should be very disappointed in yourself right now. I mean, we have 55% say send him packing. We're 0% say get Bobby Ryan involved in the conversation. We have absolute monsters replying to this poll. So not only from my perspective, but also Red Wings fans from Prashanth's perspective, you've done a terrible job voting on this poll. I want to let you go, but I want to get one last question in about Bobby Ryan, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Do you think there's a situation where Bobby Ryan sticks around besides like injury getting involved or like poor production?
I think he could. I think you sort of have to see how the year plays out. I mean, he's a heck of a player, and if he finds kind of a comfort level here in Detroit and ultimately decides that he'd rather continue, playing with the Wings and playing in this bigger role and maybe, racking up some stats. I think it ultimately depends on what his priorities are. If his priority is to find a way to be on a Stanley Cup contending team, well, then that's probably not going to be Detroit in the rest of his career. If his priority is kind of to find a team that offers him the role that he wants to play and offers him the opportunity, and it's a nice environment and it's a competitive team, then yeah, I think Detroit could absolutely be that. But I think from Detroit's side, they would need to be a little careful in that they don't end up spending too much money or term on him. If he has a good year, he is going to be 34 at the end of the year, and you don't want to be handing out a 3 or 4 year deal to a guy that's 34 there. You want to make sure that, again, if he's willing to take a 1 year deal or at a low average annual value or a 2 year deal, that's probably the most I would do. But I think Detroit has to be a little bit careful because, again, in 2021, in the offseason, they're going to have a lot of holes that they're going to have to fill. They're going to have to deal with Bertuzzi's arbitration again. You're going to have to make decisions on what you're going to do with Luke Glendening. Almost the entire defense is turning around. You're going to have to add a goalie. So a lot of decisions to make. And if the contract doesn't really work out mutually, then, he may not stick around. But I wouldn't rule it out if he decides the most important priority for him is to be on a competitive team with a big role.
Yeah, I think, too, there's that family perspective that we always forget. And if we give his kids enough pizza, I think we'll be gussing him up. We'll be shining that real nice, and it'll look better. Well, again, thank you so much. I did hold you longer than I said I would. But I hope everybody enjoyed honestly, Prashanth, again, huge fans. Top-notch opinions, in my opinion, are always coming from you, and facts coming along with the data that the models that you build yourself. I mentioned everything at the top of the show. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to plug in regards to your work or make sure people were checking out.
No, I mean, that's really it. You kind of hit everything. Nowadays, I don't get to write as much as I used to, but, you can still see all the comments there on Twitter, and that's usually where I'll just kind of leave what I'm thinking about.
What are you up to right now? What does Prashanth do during COVID?
Works at the hospital, so
Oh, right.
Yeah.
All right, so check out Prashanth's hospital. Just kidding. We want to do the opposite, right? Good gravy. My wife is a doctor, so I just feel so stupid right now that I just said the exact opposite game we're trying to play right now is keep people away. All right, well, that's a great note to end it on. So. Thanks again for coming on, and thank you for I guess from that frontline perspective. Like I mentioned, my wife's a doctor as well, so it's something that I've seen the tired eyes. I see them every morning. She's on call this weekend, so I just got to hear her dealing with some phone calls. So I know how incredibly difficult, especially you being. You're in infectious disease, correct?
Cardiology, actually. So.
Oh, okay. That must be an old bio or something. So I apologize for that. But anybody that is doing this work, including yourself, I mean, it is really taking a toll. So everybody, don't forget to give Prashanth more likes and retweets and be extra nice on social media, because it really is draining as I see it day to day in my life. So thank you for still plugging away. I can't imagine, even though I get to see my wife, I still can't imagine how she feels. I can't imagine how draining this is on you. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank your wife. She's doing a lot of good work.
All right. And on that, I'll let you go.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Thank you for everybody for tuning in, and we hope to see you subscribe. That's right. That's what I wanted to say. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go to Brothers of Discussion and find us at BOD Hockey, and find us on Facebook as Red Wings Rant. And follow along and continue supporting the show. And we do have some big guests coming. And check out BODpodcast.com. Jesse's got his weekly coverage of what we're doing on Be the GM. Yeah. Last week he did the Tyler Bertuzzi blog. This week it's my fault. Matt's been busy. We talked about it on the wrestling podcast, why Matt's busy. But his blog will be going up. If you're listening to this on Monday, it's already up. If you're listening to this live, it'll be going up in a few minutes. And you want to check out all his thoughts on Bobby Ryan. All right, everybody.
Let's do it.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.